Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm going to be giving you a video on how to counter 3 more Dota heroes in the game so that whenever you suffer from any of these heroes now or in the future, you can come back to this video to know exactly how to counter them with your picks and also how to counter them with your play. Let's go ahead and get started. So our first hero of today is Chaos Knight. So what's good against CK? Large AoE clear. That's like the person who's clearing the AoE is tanky. That is the most important part. All of these are not only AoE heroes, but also point blank range tanky AoE heroes. But on top of that, we mentioned that CK is a single target damage hero, which also makes him bad versus illusion heroes. Because CK is also single target damage, he will struggle against the other illusion heroes, most notably Naga and PL, as you can see in his worst matchups. Well, it looks like the carry illusion heroes and the off lane tanky guys. So a lot of it, if I'm gonna pick CK, is whether or not I have seen the offlane pick. But on top of that, it's something where if I'm last pick, if I'm offlane or carry, or mid in the case of like a Leshrac, I should have at least 1 or 2 options on nullifying CK's impact drastically. As you can see, some of his matchups are significant disadvantages. So CK is actually able to farm pretty well with his ultimate nowadays. So he can play a lot off map in the early to mid game, sending his ultimate down lanes to get him a little bit of extra farm. And after that, he's similar to a hero like Axe, where he's predominantly going to jungle farm and occasionally show on lane, but he is an assassin type hero that does not want to present himself to the opponent unless he has an Aegis or really tanky items and he's sieging a building. Now, CK is a deceivingly tanky hero, but he is an illusion hero, which means that if his main hero takes damage before he summons his illusions are underwhelmingly tanky as well. So because CK is super tanky, but he's also an illusion hero, he wants to be the one casting his ultimate, jumping in with like a blink dagger, or just like some people even go Aetherland's Octarine Core in order to stun Reality Rift from longer range. Either way, he wants to be getting the initiation because the amount of damage he does is reliant upon his illusions, and the tankiness and durability of his illusions is based on his own hero when he summons them. Most notably, his Reality Rift is longer range than a blink dagger in terms of the gathering radius that this hero has for his illusions to come with him. So just note that Reality Rift range plus blink is the distance that he can catch you from. So be very careful on your positioning as a squishy backliner against CK. He heavily relies on vision, and all of his abilities have kind of wonky cast animations, so utilizing trees and fog of war is absolutely essential because you can make it so he will not be able to finish the animation of his stun or his Reality Rift if you do that properly. That can either walk in front that he can't reliably burst, something like a Timbersaw or a Tidehunter, but the other way to deal with them is to have a hero that's mobile with like a Lincoln Sphere or reliable BKB to press. CK relies on that immediate 3 seconds, so it's more about him not killing you than it is about necessarily killing him. So having a hero with the ability to react to CK before a stun lands, or a hero that isn't afraid to get bursted in a stun, very few that fit that description, is the way to deal with CK. So his big power spikes are at level 12 when he gets his second point in his ultimate for the second illusion, and usually every mid-tier item he gets, Armlet, Echo Saber, BKB, and then the big items like Heart of Tarrasque and the mobility items like Blink. These are all power spikes for the reasons that we've talked about, and it's because this hero can do a lot of damage because his illusions benefit from strength on his items, and that is why this hero often only goes strength items. But because he is a strength-based illusion carry, so he cannot buy stats and gain attack speed and armor as the game goes on, he tends to fall off a bit if there's items like Shivas and such in the mid to late game that heavily negate his burst damage and his ability to take long fights. So I'd say the #1 item at making CK not a hero is Shivas, if anybody can build it as the game goes on. And if you build items like Shivas, Lincolns, Eon Discs, CK's relevance in the late game significantly drops, and I would consider him a semi-carry for that reason. You have to have heroes that can press a button when CK sees them. Examples are like Puck, examples are Invis heroes, examples are like Slark. Elusive elusive heroes that he has a tough time dealing with. And next up, we've got ourselves Clinkz. So letting everybody know, quick disclaimer, I will be skipping Chen because most people below a certain MMR have never even seen Chen, and the reason he's good varies from patch to patch, widely because of the creeps and items, and I'm going to be leaving him out of this series. So we have Clinkz, the terror of all low MMR pubs. Let me tell you that I have said time and time again that I think Clinkz is a conceptually dog shit hero. And what I mean by that is that he does a lot of damage and he's really good at killing people, but in regards to laning stage, not all that strong. Taking towers, not all that strong. Split pushing, if they have dust, he's not that strong. And he's not the best at fighting until he has a pretty good amount of items. So he doesn't take objectives, he doesn't push waves all that well, other than like dodging the opponent, and he doesn't end the game himself, but yet he only does damage. So a hero that doesn't take objectives, but sole purpose is damage, is a tough one to sell at the highest brackets. But what he does thrive on is people that are alone and people that do not build to survive against his combo. Current iteration of Clinkz heavily relies on Gleipnir plus Burning Barrage in general to burst you in a short period of time, especially if you are a support and especially if you are alone. So what we have to note about Clinkz is that a lot of what deals with him is sadly the supports. So first and foremost, his worst matchups. These are all heroes that either help see him, like Bounty Hunter, Slardar, Spectre Ultimate, Centaur helps his entire team get on top of the Clinkz. Heroes like Wraith King and Legion get right up in your face and stun you. These are all heroes that either see you, stun you, or silence you. So what we are seeing him be good against is heroes that hard commit to the fight, that most of the time aren't going to be able to find an invis hero, and then he's going to turn the fight. And he's also very good against summons heroes, as you see at the top, because Burning Barrage is so good in AoE, and he can also just eat the creep. In lane, he doesn't have much to do until he's got like a level 7 or 8 in regards to moving around the map. He needs a couple points in Invis, he needs a lot of points in Burning Barrage in order to farm jungle reliably. This hero heavily relies on a decent laning phase. So picking heroes that are going to pressure him in lane with kill threat. Remember that he has awkward attack animation in the laning stage and while CSing, and so the only thing you can do to punish this is know that he's going to give you windows to go on him. But when it comes to him playing the map, he's going to be invis, burning barraging waves, and running away. So a lot of the way to deal with Clinkz is to be grouped up and basically predict what wave he's going to go for, because if he shows himself and you're already there, you will easily be able to take him down because his only escape ability is his invis. He really needs somebody on his team to go in or for you to overcommit. So if you're playing against Clinkz, remember that if you don't see him, you have to act like he is there. That is the most important thing, because if you don't do that, you go on one of his teammates, he's right behind, Gleipnir Burning Barrage, multiple heroes on your team are going to die instantly, and that can be potentially spelling GG. Is to either all in him with multiple heroes, you're seeing the Spectre Centaur type heroes that are very good against Clinkz, or to simply itemize against his immediate burst damage in the form of physical damage. So we're looking at Yule Scepters, Force Staffs, because Force Staff dodges Burning Barrage, and items like Lotus, Manta, BKB, Satanic, any form of Dispel, Ghost Scepter even for supports, goes a long ways. Your first concern against a hero like Clinkz, if he's having a decent game, should be to buy these smaller items as soon as possible just to stay alive, because Clinkz truly is a hero where if he is not killing you as a carry, his potency drops significantly. I firmly believe Clinkz is very useless until he gets this big item Gleipnir or any damage item on top of it that allows him to kill people in a single Burning Barrage. So the biggest thing to note about this hero is that in the early game, he can be a bit of a liability, and being able to pressure his lane is absolutely essential. Being able to pressure his lane and then group up and take objectives at a decent rate is incredibly important against Clinkz, because if he's the only one on his team getting farm, he can be dealt with very easily later, because he's a carry similar to the type of anti-mage and PA that do not enable their team at all for the first 20 or so minutes. So really punishing the rest of his team by pressuring him early and turning that into objectives is absolutely important to minimize his power spikes in the late game and make him less of the low MMR terror that you guys are used to dealing with. He buys a lot of damage, and he eventually buys an item like Nullifier or Sheepstick in order to kill you with the damage and you can't defend yourself. So considering items items like Eon Disc, Lincolns, anything like that, Glimmer Cape, Shadow Blades of your own, to make sure he does not jump you. Wards and sentries on hills. I know this sounds like fundamental parts of Dota, but they are so important against a hero like Clinkz. The thing about these heroes you see in the worst versus matchup is that Legion can save her teammates, Bristleback and Abaddon simply don't die to you, and then heroes like Slardar and Centaur make it really scary for Clinkz to ever show himself other than killing those heroes, and they're also very tanky. So the natural way to deal with this hero killing you is have heroes that can immediately jump him if he does Burning Barrage, or heroes that can hunt him in the back such that they're not relying on jumping the teammates and then getting hit by the Clinkz in retaliation. Last but not least for today, we have ourselves Clockwerk. Predominantly a support hero, but sometimes played in the core role. The heroes that he is bad against, first and foremost, is his form of control. His main stun is actually battery assault. His damage and stun is battery assault for most of the early to mid game. So what does he struggle with? He struggles with illusion and summons heroes. And then on top of that, heroes that can either reliably get out of the cogs, something like Batrider, or heroes that can just kill him when he gets on top of them, stuff like Huskar and Death Prophet. So if you look at these heroes that he's good against, they're often strength heroes with slow attack speed and no way to get out, or they are squishy ranged carries. What makes Clockwerk really cool about playing the map is that he's really good at scouting things with his flare, including objectives like Roche, people that are farming in the jungle. So you don't want to play heroes that are meant to be stealthy on the map, heroes that are meant to be safely farming like the Lunas, Drows, and Clinkz, right? We want to be heroes that, okay, you see me, now what? Or heroes that see the clock and can jump him. He's a vision-based hero because of flare and the fact that he needs to land his abilities. Generally, Clockwerk can be an initiator, but once people get these 4 stabs or the ability to get out of cogs, he primarily serves as a counter-initiator, disengager, breaks up the fight because he hooks in, cogs people out, and kind of zones people a little bit. So think of Clockwerk as a stall tactic and a distraction, and that if possible, you should ignore him at all costs, or at least be prepared for his annoyance. You just have to make sure you have a way to get out of cogs. That's really it. Just make sure that you're not stuck in the cogs and this hero is not battery assaulting you continuously, and at the end of the day, you don't really have to kill him or prevent him from killing you. That's the #1 thing, is him nullifying the impact of heroes in fights by removing them for 5 or so seconds inside of his cogs. Basically the first 10 minutes, and then he falls off like a truck. Unless he's a core that's snowballing and continuously killing people, this hero will fall off pretty hard, and he basically turns into that BKB piercing stun vision type hero. So surviving the early game against Clock is absolutely essential, and when drafting against him, I definitely prioritize the laning phase. So the last thing I want to say about Clockwerk when it comes to having these natural counters of dealing with him is if you don't have these natural counters, that if you are a support or a core, you should group up together, because if Clockwerk's able to pick and choose his targets, knowing that if he loops behind you, he's going to kill you, the only way to deal with this is either have heroes that don't die to him walking behind you in the lane, or to have heroes that are sitting behind other heroes so that you can help them kill the cogs, or just turn and kill the Clockwerk in the first place. If somebody's ever getting gone on by a Clockwerk in the early to mid game, a lot of the ways you can help them is either by killing the cogs or joining them near the Clockwerk so that his battery assault is not going all onto one target. But that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Another counter video on our Counter Heroes course. Make sure you check out the rest of the course if you're wanting to see any of the heroes that come in the alphabet before this one, and there will be plenty more in the future until we have logged every hero to make sure you guys know how to conceptually deal with these heroes across patch to patch. See you later, guys. Until next time.